Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And right off at the top of this video, I want to start off by saying Happy New Year to everyone, to all the citizens out there, to everyone watching this video. I hope 2025 is an amazing year for all of us. Now, I want to talk about some of my recent videos for a second. So, in my more recent videos, I have been getting a lot of comments from people kind of talking about their experience with 4.0. A lot of people are not having a great time. And, there is a lot of discussion about CIG making future live patches feel better and have more quality of life and essentially perform better, where Chris Roberts essentially outlined in his letter from the chairman that they're going to have kind of multiple tracks or distributions of the game, where you have the live version of the game that they want to keep in a better state, and then they're going to roll out features in a sub branch or a kind of PTU or preview channel, right? And I believe most of the players think that this is a good thing. This will give CIG the ability to test features to the wider player base before they go into live, and it keeps people who want to progress in live, it gives them the ability to do that, right? Because that is the main thing. People want to be able to get in the game and do missions and make money and actually have some kind of progression, right? But there's another like portion of the player base that they don't really care about progression. They just want to get in the game and test the new features. So by kind of splitting it up, you give two kinds of players, both kinds of players, what they want, right? Players who want to progress and have that, stability can kind of have that, and players who want to test features can just roam around and experience the game. Now, what are some of the quality of life features that this game absolutely needs to have for players who want that kind of more stable live experience to have before they can really start enjoying the game? Of course, stability and the lack of bugs are kind of paramount here. We can't really have this discussion without those things, but I think those things kind of go without saying, right? Because we know that, well, if you're falling through a planet, you can't really meaningfully engage with any systems. Okay, so you need to not fall through planets and elevators first, and then you can engage with the systems in the game. So let's put that aside. Let's say that, okay, CIG is able to figure that stuff out a little bit better. Now, again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know what could be causing some of those issues, some of those, character lockups where people can't even log in. I have no clue what causes that stuff. So I can't really speak on that, right? But I did want to go over the release view a little bit here. Um, because CIG added 1.0 in, and this is essentially the goalpost. This is what they want to have, so the game is feeling good. Okay, so some of these features are, I think, cornerstone features that I think that CIG should prioritize. And again, I want to also say, right before I get into all of this stuff, that these are just my opinions, right? I've been playing this game for a long time, and these are the things that I would like to see happen first. Now, that doesn't mean that these are the things that you want to see happen first. Maybe there are certain things that you prefer because of your specific gameplay that you're interested in. Then obviously those features would matter more to you. So again, this is an opinion-based video. I'm just gonna give you guys my opinion. So don't hate me down below. Now, let's get right into this video, and I'm gonna go over some of the things that I think are interesting that I want to see CIG prioritize first from this 1.0 kind of breakdown. Okay, so characters, I'm just gonna skip over that. I do think that character improvements are paramount, but I think that systems are gonna be key here, right? So first off is going to be law and security, right? So Pyro's lawless system, Stanton is a lawful system. So in the system, they're essentially going to have uh, different levels of security depending on what star system you're in. And this new law and security system uh, is going to be huge for the way that you interact with certain things in the game, right? It's not just prisons, but we could kind of see that, some areas may have, their armistice zone lifted a bit more. And instead of saying, okay, you can't pull out your weapon at this location, essentially, NPCs will show up to defend you if a player attacks. That person will get a crime stat. And the player base has also talked about this idea of, a long-term crime stat. Like, we will have more long-term reputations. So that essentially means that, okay, if you do crime against a specific faction, like a lot of crime against a specific faction, they're going to remember that and they're not going to like you, regardless of, your crime stat. Now, with the faction and law system, you're really gonna want to be more calculating about who you shoot and why you attack players. Right now, again, you just go to prison, you pay that off. It's easy peasy. It's like nothing ever happened. That's not the end goal. That's not what the game is supposed to play like when it's released. So I think that if CIG can start to slowly introduce these features, it will give players an idea of what CIG is working towards, right? And that's kind of the biggest thing with the PvP community and the PvE community, is that we want clarity of, what's okay, what's not okay, where are the lines, right? This is a big conversation right now with Pyro and people feeling like it's just kind of like a PvP zone. Now there are faction missions and a bit of that stuff, but that's why I say I think it's important for CIG to start to slowly release this stuff and to introduce and to work on this tech sooner rather than later, right? And so planetary shields, I don't think that's as much of a priority. That's kind of all content. Ownership. Okay, so ownership is a big one that I think CIG should start working on sooner rather than later. It's implementing a robust system of items that essentially says you have this. The goal and idea is that when you acquire items in the game, that again, that persists, right? So you need to be able to transfer that ownership again in the case of selling an item. And this is a precursor to crafting, right? We can't have crafting without saying, okay, I own this and I'm going to sell it to you, because then that person is the transference of that item is just like how it is now, where you could kind of just loot and take something off of someone, and of course if you put it in your hanger and whatnot, it persists in your inventory before it's wiped. But the idea of this is that you have, for instance, cargo, and cargo is a great example of that, right? Where we have issues selling cargo from somebody else in our group or party even, right? Because, we're not the owner of that ship or whatever. So ownership is very important, because ownership is the precursor to permissions, is the precursor to crafting. So in my opinion, if they can start working on ownership and introduce it into the game, then we can start to see them working on the other systems. So I think they should start working on that sooner rather than later. Reputation V2, I do think that this is important, right? Because this is something that they've been talking about extensively. Okay, so basically, the reputation system in Star Citizen is the game progression. Kind of to put it simple, in typical MMOs, you have character leveling, right? where you start off at level 1 and you max out at 60 or whatever, right? In Star Citizen, that doesn't exist because Star Citizen is a skill-based game. So how do you progress, right? So that is kind of the whole point of the reputation system, is that you can choose who you want to align yourself with, and you can progress through your relationship with that faction. And there are benefits and perks at a high tier to being aligned with that faction, that guild. So reputation is huge and important for those players that want to see that kind of linear progression type gameplay, so they can put in effort and they can kind of reap the rewards of that effort, right? Right now, you kind of do things, and the only progression is you have more money, you can buy a ship, you can buy armor, that type of stuff. But in a video game, you need gameplay loops other than earning in-game money to, I guess, of course, at the end of the day, it's an MMO. You need to be able to kind of show off or start off as a nobody and kind of find your place in this world, right? So that's kind of why reputation is so important. And the sooner that CIG can kind of start working on this stuff and introduce it, so a couple of factions, a couple of guilds, that comes back to the guild system here. So I would say reputation and the guild system kind of go hand in hand. Then AI blades. Now, there was a lot of conversation about this because players didn't know if CIG was going to add AI blades and NPC crews before 1.0 came out. But CIG said that NPC crews will be coming after 1.0 and AI blades will be worked on sooner. And we kind of have a small glimpse of that with the point defense turrets. They're not specifically AI blades because they have different firing patterns, whereas AI blades will be kind of closer to a gunner that can target. The idea here that I think, or what I think this could look like, is right now the point defense turrets are automated. You can't control them, but AI turrets, you should be able to say, shoot at this person, shoot at that person, right? Because the way that CIG presented the point defense turrets is that they'll even shoot at you. So like if you start shooting at your own ship to insurance claim it or something like that, as an example, the point defense turrets will defend the ship. So that's very different than what an AI blade will do. AI blade's not going to shoot at you because they have intelligence, right? They're not automated. So I think CIG working on this, it sooner rather than later will help them balance it, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want this to be too overpowered. And because what CIG essentially said is that AI blades will be worse than players. But you guys have no idea. There are some really, really bad players out there that are not good at combat at all. So are the AI blades going to be worse than those players, or are they going to be worse than the best players? So it's a really big gap that you have to span there, of where these air blades are actually going to land in terms of performance and how you're going to balance it. Are you going to balance it to the worst players, or are you going to balance it to like the average player, or just a little bit below average, right? The best players are obviously going to be better, but there's a huge range that you still gotta figure out how good the performance on these things are going to be. So I think if CIG works on it sooner rather than later, then they have an opportunity to balance these things. So I think AI blades is something they should work on. Crafting. Now, crafting is, in my opinion, hugely important for CIG to start working on as soon as possible, because like I said in my other video, there are so many prerequisites that are required to get this system to be good. And again, we don't just want any crafting system. It's not like, you can just go to the Unreal Engine marketplace and download a crafting system and you're good to go. No, Star Citizen has unique elements, unique items. It's not like, building an iron sword, for instance. uh you have to come up with every single recipe for every single item, and then you have to balance it with the economy. So if CIG needs to start working on this system as soon as possible, ASAP. Start coming up with blueprints, start coming up with recipes, start coming up with what elements you want to have, and start calculating what that cost is going to look like, because we recently had some economy balances and changes, but that really doesn't matter because crafting isn't in the game yet. So any economy rebalancing that they do, it's not going to take into account all of the materials in those items, and that's what crafting really needs to do. So I think the sooner CIG can work on crafting, the sooner they can actually create an economy for this game, right? So as a trader, hauler, somebody who's interested in that profession, I definitely want them to start working on crafting so I can know what to expect in terms of prices, fuel prices, all this stuff really hinges on crafting. Then we have player to player trading. Okay, so this is huge. This is the player economy, right? So I've been saying this for a really long time. I think Star Citizen is an amazing game, and not having a player based economy would be a huge missed opportunity. EVE Online is an incredible game because of what you could do in it, but it is not immersive the way that Star Citizen is. So imagine an incredibly immersive game that you can actually, do whatever you want in. So this is super important. Now, uh, again, when it comes to balancing the game, we will have that NPC economy as a baseline. We're assuming that this is an economy that has existed for, hundreds of years, right? So we're not going into it fresh, setting all the prices for everything. You know, this this item fully made will have an in-game cost and in-game price, right? First. But that's why I've also said I'm really hoping that CIG also adds unique items, items that we can't buy in stores that players can craft. But you would have some maybe lower tier brands, maybe Grey Cat multi-tool. That's an item that, the stores sell because they just build it in a big factory at mass. But again, some of those more rare, high tier weapons, they'll be made in smaller quantities, so maybe the manufacturer wants to contract those weapons out. That's just a suggestion, an idea, but building the player to player trading system is going to be fundamental to essentially let the players run wild with that. And again, I say run wild, but it's going to be in the context of the in-game economy simulation. Then we have player organizations. In my opinion, this is also super critical. I want to make another video doing a deep dive into the MobiGlass update. I want to look back at what CIG said at CitizenCon, just go over all of the updates again. These are just some of the features that I think CIG should work on first. Player organizations is critical, man. A lot of organizations right now, they're doing everything in Discord. In-game chats sometimes broken. I think that CIG fixing these features, getting them running smoothly, it's gonna help people get in the game and play. A lot of people play Star Citizen solo because there just isn't a really good in-game system to find organizations, meet up with people, and do content. So it is super critical that CIG, works on the friend finder and the mission finder and the org stuff. And I know that during CitizenCon they went over a lot of this stuff, and I want to make another video that's strictly about that. But I think player organization is super critical. They need to start working on this ASAP. And that brings us to the social MobiGlass app. Uh, this is all a part of that, right? Where we can, use our MobiGlass to do everything. The updated contracts manager, sharing our location with other players, different party permissions. Again, I want to go into detail about all of this stuff in another video. I don't want this video to be too long, but I think that the social MobiGlass app is going to be the backbone of this game. Building interiors. This is something that we thought we were going to see more about at CitizenCon, right? Where they would essentially just update us on what these are looking like. But I think that there are a few hurdles with the instancing tech. Again, when we had the player hangars first introduced, they were kind of layered on top of each other in the physical game world. So when we were in our hangar, we were hearing other people's hangars. And sometimes when we're in our hangar, we see other people's ships and different stuff like that. So I think there are some bugs with the instancing tech that CIG still needs to work out a little bit. Instance hangars are not bug free yet. But it is working. So I think that once CIG starts working on the assets to get these building interiors together, and once they start kind of smoothing out the actual tech there of the bugs, I think these are going to make a big difference, right? Because right now, obviously, cities kind of feel like, just that's why they're called landing zones, right? Because they were initially designed to be just places that we go to shop or take missions, find mission givers, that type of stuff. But planets became fully explorable, and we really need to have reasons to go to these cities. Again, it's not that there's no reason for them to be in the game. Cities play a huge part of the game, but they could be so much more and fulfill that potential. Building interiors and these instance locations are going to really do that. But these are just some of the things that I think CIG should focus on getting out of the 1.0 branch and getting in our hands as soon as possible. I want to know what things that you guys want to see CIG work on sooner rather than later. We got to decide what things are a priority for us. So I want to hear from you guys in comments down below. What do you think CIG should work on first? What are the things that the quality of life changes and improvement that you want to see come to the game in 2025? We got a big year ahead of us. I got big plans. I think CIG has even bigger plans for this year. Hopefully we see a lot of those things come to fruition. Thanks for watching this video, you guys. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so that's going to be it for me here in this one. Like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salut!